get some silly questions and wasted time and all that stuff. So, if you guys have questions or whatever, just please, this is a two-way thing. This is not just us talking for however long it is.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome today. I'm Shelley Carr. I am one of the power partners here at My Home Group. Is there anybody here that's not My Home Group? One, two.
Welcome.
Okay, welcome. My Home Group is always welcoming to other brokerages, and they do some great classes, so we're happy that you're here. I'm a power partner. I'm with One Guard Home Warranties. I've been a power partner for a really long time. I don't even know how many years. So I'm happy to be here as a sponsor of the class, but also as kind of helping to moderate. I know that you might need my help in moderating it because there's going to be just a lot of open discussion. You guys are going to learn so much today. But I want to first just introduce our panel and appreciate them and their time. They're busy folks and they have a wealth of knowledge to give to you. So do you guys want me to introduce you, or you guys want to introduce yourselves and give a little bit of your background? How do you want me to do it?
Let's do ourselves.
Okay.
My name is Jason Mendoza. I run My Rental Superstore. I'm a power partner here as well. Used to be an agent, so I started out as one of you guys. I was like the 9th agent when these guys were starting out, and needed to go into property management. So Mark and Jeremy and I started talking about it and developed a partnership to get that going. We now manage close over 400 doors here in the Valley. We're about to move offices from 16th and Roosevelt up to 19th Avenue and Camelback. Nice new facility and whatnot. But I've been doing this for years. I also own 27 rental doors. So hopefully throughout this you can get from me, this is how I started out, this is how it happened. But then after that, the management portion of it, because ultimately you grab it and then how are you going to hold on to it? How are you going to hold it? How are you going to manage it? How are you going to deal with all the stuff that comes up over time? But that's what I hope to bring to you guys today.
All right. So my name is Julian Lopez. That's my wife, Jolette. And we got started in real estate about 4 years ago in 2017 and took the leap of faith, left the corporate world to kind of try something new and get started in the investment world / retail sales. And fast forward, I've done a lot of fix and flips, done a lot of wholesaling, started focusing on buy and hold strategies in 2018 and started accumulating some rentals. Started doing it quite differently than most people by buying properties in multifamily zones like Mesa, South Phoenix, areas like that where we could rent by the door and it was allowed to. And then slowly we started fixing properties, refinancing, rinse and repeat, the whole BRRRR strategy for those of you that have been reading up and investing. Right now we own 10 properties. We have about 48 tenants. We just started a project last week. We got the keys to our first 10-unit apartment complex. So we're very excited about this. And so I would say that what I bring to the table, what I can help with is not only explain some of the ways that we've been able to grow so fast in such a short amount of time, in 4 years. So when it comes to the financing side of things for both conventional and private money, raising private capital, how to structure deals, things of that nature, and also more or less on how we look at our long-term investment strategy. So we do a little bit of Airbnb, like I said, room rentals, and now apartments.
Awesome. My name is Mike Broderick. I'm an agent here at My Home Group, been with these guys since 13. I've had an active fix and flip business here since 2010. And at that time, what I decided is I wanted to acquire one property a year in the time that I'm a little bit senior to these gentlemen. Gray hair is going to tell that story. But the great thing about starting when I did is properties were so cheap, guys. In 2010, we all know what they were, right? So I was able to really get a leg up. At this time, I've got 10 properties, 8 of which are free and clear. 2 more will be in 2 years, and I'll have 10 free and clear, and that's right off in the sunset time. I don't use leverage. It's all, I use leverage in the sense that I'll buy that property, but I'll put a significant amount down and just throw everything I can at it to get rid of the debt. I've got a different strategy because I'm closer to retirement. But it's you can still do everything I did today. And I think 1 year I think that's a very reasonable goal. In fact, that's one of the things I was going to suggest. in just kind of overall topics and talking to everybody. This whole thing doesn't happen by accident. The three of us are not up here because we kind of, I'll do this. You got a goal, and where do you want to be in the next period of time? You got to write it down. We all know goals are dreams unless you write it down. But I had a path. I could show you paperwork from 2010 that I plotted out. When would the rents be enough to buy my third property and fourth and all? All those numbers mean nothing. You throw them out the window because the assumptions I made are silly. But at least you modify it, you do everything else. So anyway, I'll cut it off. That's kind of my story.
All right. So my first question is going to be, how did you start your investing?
Boy, who wants to go first?
Maybe we'll take about that.
I'll go first. Let me tell you how I got started out. Now, I'm going to tell you, I started my first investment in 2003. Okay, so I've been doing this for a long time. However, I'll also tell you, I wiped out in 2008, and the reason I wiped out was because I used to have a mortgage company back in the days, and so for any of you that remember what happened back in the early 2000s is rates started coming down. We started coming up with these hybrid products and whatnot, and et cetera, et cetera. We were giving 1% loans. Eventually, it just implodes, blah, blah, blah. That happened. But before that had happened, in 2003, I bought a duplex, and that was my first mistake. Okay, my number one mistake I made was I bought the wrong property. It wasn't that I bought a duplex, but I bought a duplex in the wrong part of town. I wasn't prepared for it, and I should have been buying a fourplex that I could have moved into. And I just didn't know any better. I didn't have any guidance. Nobody taught me anything about this. This is all self-taught and whatnot. But I bought that first place, and it was rough and whatnot. And I remember I ended up evicting somebody. Learned really learned the hard way that when you buy a property in California, their landlord-tenant act is so much different than it is here in Arizona. And somebody held me up for basically 8 months without paying rent, and I got screwed on there. Now, long story short, I ended up making money on that place because I bought it for $120 and I sold it for $300 before the market crashed. So I was able to make my money and get out of it. However, I had amassed 9 other properties, all on 1% loans, was losing money month after month after month. And then when my mortgage company was no longer making money, I had to let it all go. Okay? So fast forward to 2010, I'm sitting around working at Chase Bank, had been there for a while, decided to get back into real estate because this guy came in the bank and he's like, hey, do you want to start flipping? And I was like, it might be a good time. I had heard about houses, $10,000, $20,000. I mean, 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses that are now $300,000 for that price. So I started picking that stuff up and started again. So knowing everything that I did before, this time I went and started building. Well, I started using the power of leveraging, understanding that you could buy that first triplex, fourplex with an FH8 loan, put 3.5% down, and move in. And I started doing that. And then I had another guy who was, well, I'll team up with you over there. Let's do this. And started acquiring a few that way. And then it took off from there. And so just 2 different ways to do it. Now, like Mike, I'm focusing a lot on paying off what I have in my portfolio. Everything's on 15-year loans. And I've got about a 10-year window of that paying off. And that's just what I have now. That's like my bankable portion. And I want to start acquiring again. But it's been learning the different ways of how to build and how to get it going. And that's what brings me here today.
That's awesome. So for me, like I said, I used to work in corporate America. I was working for GoDaddy.com. Some of you guys may be aware of the company. It's an internet company. They sell domain names and hosting. Long story short, when I left, I wanted to start in real estate, and I had purchased my first primary house and my primary residence in 2012. So I was still with the company, bought my first house, lived there for 3 years. When I made the decision to leave and start this new journey, there's one thing I did right, one thing I wish I would have waited for. So one of the things I did was, it was a 3-2 and 10P, and I figured if I sell this house, I could pay off all my debt and be 100% liquid, no debts, no nothing, so I can go all in on this new venture. One of the things that I had the wisdom to try and do, which was, why don't I refi cash out and then try to pay off my debts? but a loan officer said I didn't qualify. At the time, I knew nothing about real estate, nothing about financing. I wish I would have waited a little longer to pay down some credit cards to be able to actually do that, but I decided to sell. So I sold that house, paid off all my credit card debt and all the debts I had, and then I decided, you know what, before I leave this company, because I still have a W-2, I should probably get a new house though, but with more rooms, so I can do some kind of house hacking. I don't know who here has heard of Bigger Pockets. Yeah, it's an online, it's a company that provides a lot of free information. There's a lot of forums, there's a lot of investors, it's a community of people that share a lot of knowledge, and I started following them and started reading up as much as I could to learn how people get started. And one of the things I kept hearing was the advice of either buy a fourplex with an FHA loan and move into one of the units so you can live practically rent-free while your property is appreciating, or you can house hack your way by maybe getting roommates and things like that. Well, I was still, I like to think I'm still young, but at the time I was much younger, so I still had roommates, so I was like, I could do this again, but instead of a 3-2, why don't I get a 5-2 or a 5-3, maybe a 5-bedroom house. Realized that that's not only expensive, but there's not a lot out there for my budget at the time. But I found this 4-bedroom, 2-bath home in Chandler that had a den in the master. And so I figure I can put myself in there in that den. My cousin can take the master. I'll charge him more, and I hope he's cool with me like living in the same room almost with a door in between. So we built this barn door in there, and I was in the den. I would share the master with him because he was technically paying for the master in my own house. And then I rented the other 3 rooms. That gave me a lot of confidence because keep in mind, I had already paid off all my debt. I took about 10% for that down payment from my 401k. This is another, I think, something that a lot of people don't know, and is that you can use money from your 401k for your primary residence, for your down payment. And so I was able to loan against my 401k money to myself to buy that second home. And then after I moved in, I realized that the tenants were paying for, or my roommates I should say, because they're friends and family, they were paying for pretty much the entire mortgage and the services and the bills. I literally had nothing that I was responsible for. And here I am, still single, no wife, no kids, no nothing. I felt like I was back in like high school days or something, or middle school days, where like the only things I was responsible for were like transportation and food, right? So it gave me a huge sense of confidence that I could literally go out and try to do my best in this whole investing thing, right? The next thing I did is something I don't recommend unless you are literally burning the ships. And what I mean by that is you're giving yourself no other option, which was cash out. I cashed out my 401k. It's not like there was much in it, to be honest with you. There was still like, I think there was like 40, 50k left in it. But I cashed it out. I was like, I'm all in on this. This has to work. And I started my first fix and flip in Maryvale. It was the cheapest house I could find for 120k. Learned a lot through that process. You can only imagine all the things that happened to me because I was trying to do things on my own, going to Home Depot every day. So anyways, I think I went through the hard way. I definitely don't recommend it because it's not for everyone, and I think you're going to face a lot of challenges and things like that. If I could do it all over again, I would still use my 401k to make sure that you're investing. I think that's powerful because you're really just moving funds from one asset class to another, right? So I think real estate, we all know, is a very stable, consistent, as long as you're not doing it short term, it's a very good asset class. So I definitely recommend you do that. I think the other thing I wish I would have done was to try and, while I still had a really good W-2 income, would have been to try and get more property. So if you could advise that to anyone that still has that, do that. But that's how I got started, and long story short, did the fix and flips for 2 years, realized that was very transactional, realized that was a big investment of time and energy, and when you're leveraging almost the entire project, your profit margins are really thin, and any mistake can cause you to really lose all that time and make almost nothing. Like, you would have been better off going to work for McDonald's for those 5 months, and you would have made the same money with less headaches and less stress. And so it was in 2018 when I realized, I really need to learn this whole taxes game, how to file my returns accordingly to make sure that I am ready to start qualifying for conventional financing again. And that's when it really started getting fun for me, when I started qualifying for my second investment property, my third, my fourth, my fifth, my sixth, my seventh, my eighth, my ninth. And like I said, right now, fast forward now, pretty much capped out on how many conventional loans I can get. But there's so many different financing tools out there that even past 10, there's so many other options out there. And as we're getting now into commercial world, that's a whole different world of financing where there's not a lot of red tape. Because you're viewed as a big boy or girl that knows what they're doing, and so there's not a lot of the Fannie Freddie guidelines, and so if anything, financing gets easier as you get to that level. But anyways, that's how I got started. It's kind of a weird bootstrap, crazy unorthodox way.
So again, I started fix and flip operation. I was in a mortgage company previous with a very similar story to Jason. And in 2010, I wanted a fresh start. We had payroll, we had 40 employees and all that stuff. I didn't know any of that anymore. So what can I do? I mean, I know real estate. So I started buying houses here and fixing and flipping. And I kind of stumbled at an idea. I was doing a lot of marketing. It was easier then. Right now, this is the toughest market to purchase properties at a discount to flip for a profit. It literally is the hardest. This is where everybody cuts their teeth. All the iBuyers started here. Everybody and their brother, because we're inexpensive and it's an active market. It's a great, it's like all the signs are go. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people looking at those signs. But anyway, I was doing a pretty good amount of marketing at the time, and I would meet people from out of state. I was marketing to out of state owners to buy their house. They all had tenants, so what I was doing is buying properties and inheriting their problem tenants. Right. So somebody that lives back east, they got a tenant in Arizona. They've never even met them. They had a property management company, and there's a lot of bad property management companies. He's not one of them. But that's an industry. You've all heard the horror stories, right?
It's not easy.
So anyway, so I would inherit their problems. I would just pick it up and run. I'd go introduce, I'd figure out what condition. I would recommend you guys are all real estate agents. If you're wanting to get in this, start with tenant-occupied properties. They're more difficult to sell, right? We all know that. You have a list of property with a tenant. The tenant, sorry, I can only see people at midnight on Sunday. It's the only showings all allow, right? I mean, why would they? They don't need incentive to sell the house. That's a great place to start and get a little bit of a discount. The other advantage of that is, what are you going to do when you buy a rental property? You're going to put a tenant in. This thing already has a tenant. You've kind of killed two birds with one stone. Chances are that tenant's under market. So most of them are month to month, in just my experience. So when I typically go in, introduce myself, I'm not the bad guy, I'm the good guy. Here's what we're gonna do. You wanna stay, I want you to stay. Market's at 14, you're paying 11. I'll give you a year at halfway. Let's split the difference. Now, because the house is being sold, he thinks he's gotta move. You don't have to move. I'll let you stay. Let's split the difference. I've done it, I've done it a ton of times. It is a great way to get your foot in the door, and that's kind of how I got started. I've had tenants, 5-6 years, and I've never, you always kind of stay just below whatever the highs are. You guys are all reading the article. 13% increase in rent last year.
Yeah. Easy.
That's a shock for an existing tenant. Hey, I got to bump your rent. You were paying, $1,000. Now you're going to be paying $1,130. Guys, you'll all develop your relationship with your tenants, but I never want to take it the full. Now, I don't want them to move. I don't want the rehab costs. It's going to be down for 30 days at least. You're going to spend $2,500 at least to bump it $100. Doesn't make any sense. So, anyway, got off a bit of a tangent there. That's kind of, it's worked for me.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions on the start or anything like that?
Yeah, we want to make sure it's interactive, so
What's that?
please
What
feel free
property
to chime
management
in.
company?
It's called My Rental Superstore.
My rental super.
So a power partner here with my home group. We got my office at the top of the stairs, but I was saying before we're just opening some new offices. Basically next week we're going to be moving this weekend, and our new office is going to be off of 19th Avenue in Camelback. It's a 4-story building right there, right off the freeway. So we're really excited. We're going from like 400 square feet to like 1,500 because we have the need. And so as the business has grown, it's been awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a headache and it is a nightmare.
Right.
So property management is the dirty underbelly of real estate. It is very
Right.
familiar with football. We're the offensive linemen. Nobody looks at us. Nobody cares and whatnot until somebody gets mad. That's it. There's no glory. There's no, there's no nothing. None of that. But it's profitable, and it does make money over time. It is a grind, and it is very much different than selling homes. It's very much like being an insurance agent, because you have monthly residual that comes month after month after month. Now think about that. I've got that, and I've got my guys. They're out running this stuff right here. I'm here with you guys trying to open the playbook. That money keeps coming. I've got the rentals too, and that's where the big money comes, and that's where you want to go. You want to have that. This, if you got the stomach for it, man, it's great. But you got to have the stomach for it, because it is a pain in the butt.
Where?
Yeah.
Where's the pain?
Tenants, owners,
Oh,
agents, insurance agent,
just dealing with
everybody,
people.
everybody, all the time. And they call to complain and whatnot. You got to know how to position it to them. Yeah.
You guys hunt wholesale properties?
Do we hunt wholesale properties?
Yeah.
I don't.
I do.
What's
He
your best
does.
avenue? What's your best avenue for finding them?
So a couple things. I've built relationships over the 11 years.
So you know as a wholesaler?
I kind of I get every wholesale email that comes down the pipe.
Right.
90% of them are crap.
Yeah.
Right? You're seeing the same stuff.
Yeah.
But I still have a bit of marketing out there, and I've got agents and other referral sources that call me. I had an agent. So when I first started flipping houses, didn't have my license. The guy who was my agent, I lost track of him for 7 years. About 2 months ago, he bought one of my flips. I haven't talked to the guy in forever, right? He called me 2 days ago. Hey, Mike, I got a deal, right? Because I'm back on his radar, and I'm the guy that knows how to do that. And I'll take this house. I guess it's pretty ugly. I haven't seen it yet.
I just wanted to add that when it comes to wholesaling, you got to remember that it's a marketing business, really, and the only people that are successful or get a lot of traction are people who are consistent, are treating it like a business. They have a CRM, they're tracking their leads, they're looking at their conversion rates. And so there's a lot of different methods that you can play around with, whether it's through cold calling, text messages, right, mailing, stuff like that. Building organically, obviously, that's probably the more powerful one. But it's now one of those things that you just kind of try out, right? It needs to be consistent. You got to do it for a long term to see those results. I've met some of the best wholesalers here in our valley, in our market, because like he said, we are the capital for investing. This is where literally like all the iBuyers started, all the best ones are, or dip their toes into. They all have an operation here in our market, and I can tell you that I've met people that have made their money through mailing. I know a guy, his name is J.R. Piper. He's one of the best. I learned from him personally, and he sends about 20,000 letters every single month.
Wow.
To people, I buy houses cash type of deal. He's got a picture with his dog, and he tries, he's coming across very friendly, like, hey, if you want a no hassle, no commission, no realtor or anything, as is, I'll buy within 7 days or whenever your time frame type of deal, and he sends those every month, and the dude is killing it. Obviously his margins have gone, he used to get on average about $20,000 per assignment, which is really, really good.
That's
and
really
then,
good.
That's really good just because he has his system down. And then slowly, as the years went by, within this last 3 to 5 years, I would say more, this last 3 years, his margins are down now, between 7 to 15K,
Even that's still pretty
and
good.
even that's still pretty good now.
Yeah.
But like I said, he spends a lot of money too on his marketing and stuff like that, right? These are bigger budgets for marketing, stuff like that. But we all get started some way. I can tell you that for me personally, when I went into the wholesaling world, I thought it was something that I would like, that I would be able to do long term, but it wasn't for me. But I learned a lot through it. So I still do it organically. I know exactly what to do and how to do it and capture a lead and convert it, but I'm not out there, full time, looking for leads like that.
Can I add one thing about wholesaling? If you're looking and you're getting those emails and everything, do yourself a big favor. When you get one of those emails, check the MLS. See it's there. Because a lot of these wholesalers, they're getting it from the MLS, they're adding 10, 15,000 and throwing it out there, and you're like, buddy, it's over on the MLS. Why would I buy from you? As an agent,
It's getting
you
silly.
have that one advantage, and I've noticed that for years going, come on. So keep your eye on that. And there's tons of wholesalers. There's good ones, there are bad ones. So just keep your
A
eye
lot
on
of
that.
sharks out there, so
Oh,
be
yeah.
careful. Be careful.
Give your numbers.
I think you had a question, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to ask about, I don't know if this is moving ahead, but about
That's all right.
how'd you get your startup capital to move into whatever avenue that you're in? Like for you, how do you
My
get your-
example? Yeah, so like I said, the little bit of capital I have was what was left in my 401k. So I cashed that out, so that's how I got my first fix and flip done. But that wasn't all the capital that I used on that project. I still had to raise a little bit more capital. So what I started doing when I first started was I was going to people in my network who I had worked with, ex-colleagues of mine from GoDaddy. Why? Because these individuals, one, knew my integrity, they knew my work ethic, they knew me as a person, and ultimately, if anyone's ever going to invest in either your deals or in anything that you're doing, they're investing in you, really. They don't really know much of how you're going to execute, right? They don't know much about the value of the property. They're investing in you, right? So I've tried different variations. So when I first started, I started looking at it more as joint ventures. So what I figured was, okay, if you put in X amount of capital, when I first started, I had this idea that maybe I could find someone that would give me 100% of the capital that we needed for a project, and then we could split profits 50-50. Later, I found out that I was doing literally all the work, everything, and that was actually extremely generous and probably way more than I should be given. But much like anything, whether you're an artist or you're starting a photography portfolio, so is investing, right? You gotta get your experience in, and people are taking a much bigger risk on you when you're first starting because you don't have any experience, and a lot of things are gonna go wrong. So anyways, I started playing around with those things, and so at first I started offering the 50-50. Later, after a few projects, I started offering like a 70-30 split and a 20-80, and then later I realized, honestly, this is just not working because the person that is investing that money, because it's a joint venture, they feel also responsible for the operations and the decision making, and so it started throwing me off. There's this guy who is a really good friend of mine. His name is Doug Lank. He's the Chief Strategy Officer for the state of Arizona. He used to work with me at GoDaddy. And he's very hands-on, very OCD, very controlling. And so when we started doing this flip in Scottsdale, he started influencing my decisions because he's like, no, we should put stucco here. We got to do this and we got to do that and this, that. Next thing you know, I felt like I was actually like trying to remodel this house for him. And in hindsight, he influenced a lot of decisions that, looking back, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. And so that was my last time offering a joint venture.
How much you guys close on it? Did you close?
Yeah, we did it. We bought that property for, I think, $360, and we sold it for like $530.
So you guys still like close the deal?
It was, but honestly, I spent so much money on that project that we should have. The profit margin was not my target. We didn't hit our target. But you learn a lot, right? You learn a lot through those experiences. Every project you learn something. And so a long-winded answer is, as you get more experience, you figure out how to find a win-win situation with the person that is taking a chance on you. Because now remember, this is like the disclaimer. Don't go out there trying to raise money unless you truly either have a plan, you either have a mentor, or you feel extremely confident that not only you can deliver, but you're like willing to give a personal guarantee and say, I will pay you back regardless. Because that's got to be the mentality. That's got to be the thing. You got to start small. You can't be jumping into a huge project your first time, right? It's like anything in life. It requires experience, and you got to go at the right pace, because there's a lot of people that go too fast, too quick, get burned, do one bad project, and your career is done. So that's the disclaimer. Be very careful. But anyways, the last thing I'll say is what I do now is I only do private notes. So what I do is I raise private money by offering people the ability to invest as like a note. They're just giving my company, Luxtige LLC, a loan for X amount of dollars for a fixed interest rate. I actually pay them 10 to 12% annualized, and it comes out of the rents. And so they get their check or direct deposit in the mail or in their checking account every single month. So a lot of people really like that because it's a way for people to diversify their savings into something that is going to give them a 12% return as opposed to having to sit in the bank. Now, again, another disclaimer. You have to be very careful because the SEC, as you guys may or may not be aware of, if you're buying a property and you're trying to syndicate it or something like that, there are ways that you have to go about that if you're raising money for those projects. Because you can't just go out there to the public for people you don't know and start raising money. You're creating a security. and with that comes a certain license or a certain permit or a certain process required for that. So the only way that you can really raise money for your projects is with people that you have a pre-existing relationship with, right? Someone that knows you, not just you posting something online and or putting a billboard and getting anyone reach out to you. So anyway, that's how I've done it with people that I've had pre-existing relationships, and now I just do like a flat 12% interest rate. They do a note and I do a personal guarantee, and as I started growing and our portfolio kept going, now we have a lot of collateral. So if someone's giving me 30, 50K, 70K, and I have over $4 million worth of real estate with a lot of equity, would say $2 million worth of equity, now that investment is well collateralized, and it's not going to be that much of a risk for them. But when you're starting out, you have to be very careful.
The last thing is, on that, do you still use or would you still recommend using the Bigger Pockets website to get more information?
Oh, education is one of those things that you'll never stop learning, you'll never stop growing. And so, things like what you're doing today and the things that you guys plug into that you're following online, the forums and things like that, especially when they're free, take advantage of that and start soaking in as much information as possible, because there's someone that is either going through what you are going to be going through or someone that has learned the hard way, and so it can really save you a lot of headaches. So yeah, highly recommend you guys go on that website, create a profile, and just start following the things that you're interested in.
Yeah, and if you are, if you're my home group agent, go to the mastermind, ask some questions on Facebook and whatnot. You've got plenty of us that blowhards that will sit there and just tell you everything we know, because that's what we're here for. We're here to give you that kind of information and whatnot. So you can go to that site, do that, go all the avenues you have. But within my home group, you have so much information from older agents and whatnot that have been through everything, that are willing to tell you, this is how you do it, this is how you get started, this is where you go. You can ask questions for that mastermind and people will just throw you, hey, there's this guy, this guy. Pick up the phone, make a phone call. I mean, I'm available. Pick up the phone, I will call, I will tell you what to do. I want to touch on one of the other things about getting started and whatnot, the 401k, okay? This is what I did. I didn't take a 401k, I went and converted it into a SEP IRA, okay? A self-directed IRA. So I self-directed it, it's funny because the number that I had in there was about $40,000 from an old job that I had at Earthlink. When I wiped out back in 08, I lost everything. I had this huge mortgage, everything was gone because I was sitting there with a bunch of overhead. We had lender after lender that told us we couldn't fund anything, and so I just got eaten alive by all of it. So I had to completely restart, and I had forgotten that I even had it sitting there. And one day the guy comes in the bank, tells me about this, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I have that 401k that's sitting there. I converted. I meet this guy. He's all, this is how you self-direct it. Did that, and all of a sudden I got what's called checkbook control. So now it comes down into my LLC, and from there I was able to partner up and started acquiring some properties that way. And so you can self-direct. Now, you got to be careful with that. There are different things that you can and cannot do with that. Here's a great tip. There's a place called Vantage that's right. It's not far from here. It's like off of Tatum and the 101. And if you go to Vantage, they have seminars and they can tell you how to self-direct and how to utilize that money. Okay, how to utilize it without triggering the events that will cause you the tax problems that you'll have with it. Because you want to keep that money inside and be able to defer. But you can partner up and you can use that money to start to get your advantage. And so what I did was I met this other guy and he had some self-directed money. And guess what we did? We loaned it to each other. And now by loaning it to each other, now each other had a fixed rate, real low rate loan with each other. But now we can take that money from our companies and start going and doing some stuff together from there. So many different ways that you can be creative with it, but that's what you're going to want to do. If you choose to do something like that, start with Vantage and start with them and go, okay, tell me everything you can. And they'll have seminars and whatnot. Now you can figure out how can I unlock this money, pull it out of the stock market or whatever it's sitting in, even though it's been doing pretty well and whatnot. One of the things that I'll tell you is I don't know much about stocks. Like I don't know about PE ratios. I don't know about any of that stuff. It's not what I do professionally. What do I do professionally? I'm a real estate agent at heart. I'm a broker, but I'm a real estate agent. So what do I know? I know real estate and I know the Phoenix market. So why not invest in what I know and move that money in there long term? Because in everybody else's hands, yeah, it can go good, it can go bad, whatever. But there's another expert that I got to pay to do that. you can learn to become the expert over your entire portfolio, and you can utilize that because this is the industry you're in. Okay.
I also have an account at Advantage. They've got it figured out.
Yeah,
Advantage is, they were brilliant. And something else they offer is the seminars for education, but part of those seminars is opportunity for people like you to go in and present what you've got, because people that have their money sitting there are looking for opportunities.
Yep.
So it's kind of a win-win. You can go in and if they believe in you, then they'll set you up as one of the possible. But it's just kind of a forum, but they handle the stuff with you know, basically keep you out of trouble with the IRS, because you can get in trouble.
Yeah.
You can't lend yourself money. You can't live in a house that you bought with your IRA. You can't do it in conjunction with a family member. You know, there's a lot of rules, but it allows you to really leverage, because that money stays in there and grows tax deferred.
Yep.
Right? So if you own a rental property, and you can, in your self-directed IRA, the rent goes right back in there. There's no taxable event there.
Yep.
That reminds me of.
That right there is worth a whole hour, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully there's enough gold nuggets that
Yeah.
make it worth it. But yeah, I was just gonna say, as RIA, the real estate investor community, when you're first starting out, that's where I heard about the self-direct advantage, resource. And so I think when you're first starting out, it might be worth checking out as RIA and being a member for even if it's just a little bit of time. It's mostly to get to know the vendors and stuff like that, but I think the market updates, the different subgroups that they have are very educational and useful as you're getting started as well.
And then another tool that you didn't say, adding to the private investors that we have, we also use hard money lending. That
Yeah.
maybe many
Yeah, that's more of how you, yeah,
have.
definitely, yeah. So the hard money lending is, it's definitely there, and it's available everywhere, right? There's so many players, but yeah, hard money lenders are people who are lending on an asset, on a property, and they're gonna give you anywhere from 70 up to 85% of the cost, right, or the project. And they have different ways, even if you need to borrow money from them for the project cost and stuff like that. There's different variations, but yeah, they don't care about your credit score. They don't care if you're married, if you're not married. A lot of times they don't care about your experience. The more experience, the better rates, and the more they're willing to lend you. But hard money lenders just care about what you're buying and what your project is.
Hard money, you said?
Hard money. Hard money.
Does anybody, you guys have rentals? Any of you?
Nobody has a
You do?
rental?
How many you have?
Just one.
Has it been a good experience? How long have you had it?
Yeah, I just bought another house and rented the old one out.
There you go.
So,
There you go. So it's smooth.
but yeah,
good tenant.
everything's been pretty good so far.
How long has it been a rental?
I've had it. It's been a rental 2 different times, but probably total like 3-4 years.
Cool.
So
No COVID fallout.
we got really lucky with that. We just did a $200 price increase this year, and they were excited about it because that's all
They
we
know.
did.
They don't
Yeah.
matter. Yeah.
So you just do it yourself, no property management or anything? You do it property.
I did hire a friend as a property manager, and she's kind of taking care of it for the most part.
Okay.
Mainly just because I didn't want to have to deal with evicting somebody.
Yeah.
But I've got that, and then the reason I came to the class is I was looking at another one to maybe turn into a rental
Awesome.
that I found.
Nice.
Very good.
Yeah, I think it's
First one's the toughest.
Yeah.
First one's the toughest. You get over that, then it's like, yeah, you do this.
what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like most things in life, there's not a one size fits all, right? There's because it really depends on what's right for you. And so one of the things as we were putting together something that would be useful to you guys, and we were thinking of questions that would be good questions for you to ask yourself, would be to kind of find out, if you're gonna go down this path of becoming a real estate investor. It's kind of figuring out what is that target, right? What is the goal? Are you going after residual income, which is kind of like the holy grail that we all get started? That's like the reason why we all get started, right? What's that number, right? What does that look like to you? What does success look like to you on a monthly basis? Are you gonna get to 5K a month and then you're good? 9, 10, 20, 40, 50K a month? Like what's your number, right? And I think that number will then allow you to get realistic about your timeline, what chapter in life you're in right now, how old you are, how much time you have to try and achieve that goal. But people have different goals. Sometimes people care more about net worth. Sometimes people care about other things, right? I will say cash flow by far is
It's
the
king.
best metric. That's king. That wins above anything else, because net worth is just something on a paper that can disappear overnight, as we all noticed in 2008. So cash flow, on the other hand, is a lot more stable, right? We know that people need a place to live, and if you have those assets, even if everyone is hurting, you can always charge lower rents, but people still need somewhere to live. So anyway, so ask yourself that question. I think that was one of the best things that I did when I first got started, because much like something that he does, which is really difficult and really hard, produces amazing results. But that may not be for you, because it might be too hard. What if you can't go to sleep at night? It's too much stress. There's too many things going on, right? Look at someone like me. When I first got started, I had a number, and I don't want to say, well, it doesn't really matter, but you need to come up with whatever your number is. But when I saw my number, I was like, whoa. If I want to get there, I need to figure out something that's a little more aggressive, even if it's more stressful, even if it's harder. I got to figure out some way to create the type of cash flow returns I need to get farther ahead faster, so I can pace myself and get where I want to be at a certain point. And that's why I was looking at, do I rent my properties to just one family? And that's when I realized the numbers just don't make sense for what I want to accomplish in this career path. So I need to come up with a different alternative. And the options for me at the time were either Airbnb, which was fairly new, or this whole rent rooms separately by the door on a month-to-month basis, which is crazy. It's not common. You'll see it in certain forms of student housing, right? But I figured, I'm going to do that because the cash flow was, in my opinion, close to what you could get in Airbnb, but the operations were less than running a mini hotel, right? Because you got to keep it clean, you got to do the check-in, the check-out, the customer service. There's a lot that goes with that, right? And at the time, I think most management companies that did that, the short-term vacation rentals, were charging like 25%. Right? And so I started looking at that number. I was like, oh no, that eats too much into my profits, maybe. And the properties too, I would need to start looking at properties that were maybe nicer, had a pool, had a better backyard, had nicer curb appeal. So for me, the right answer was no, go after more affordable houses that have the deferred maintenance, that I can buy under market value, but that I can fix, rent by the room, get amazing cash flow, and 6 months later, do a refi cash out to kind of recycle the capital that I injected and go do it all over again.
Yep.
So that's why asking yourself that question will then lay out your foundation for how to go about it.
So what's that process like for figuring out how to exactly do that room by room? I'm sure there's a lot of laws wherever you have to
Yes.
skirt around.
It has to be, you have to make sure, one, there's no HOAs. You can't do that in an HOA. Most HOAs, they're all different, but for the most part, they're not going to be okay with you doing short-term rentals, vacation rentals. So they usually have something that stipulates that it needs to be a minimum of 1 month.
Yep.
And so no HOAs, and also every city has different zoning, different zones. And so you got to look at where the multi-family zones are within a city. Like if you go, for example, Chandler, most of Chandler, has HOAs, is really nice. But then if you go down to close to downtown Chandler, there's certain areas that are, you can tell, you're like, whoa, where am I, right? That's a multi-family area. If you're in Mesa,
That's where you want to buy.
and that's the thing, you gotta have the stomach for it, right? Because if it's not for you, it's not for you. It doesn't, one size, it doesn't fit all, is what I'm saying. But in Mesa, right, if you go to Northeast Mesa, you're seeing really nice properties and all that. But if you go closer to the 101, like the Southwest Mesa, you start getting into multi-family housing zones where there's a lot of apartment complexes. You see a lot of cars on the road. That's because the city is okay with multiple families living in the same properties. So you got to make sure that you're only doing that in those areas.
So one more thing, multifamily versus single family for investment?
Multifamily.
Compared to contrast.
Multifamily for me, single family for Mike. It's a different animal and whatnot. So multifamily is my specialty, but mainly because it comes natural to me. But think of it this way: you can buy up to 4 with residential, then you can go 10 like this man, and now you got 10 in one spot. So let's just take 4 though, for instance, 4 water heaters, 4 stoves, 4 refrigerators. There's 4 of everything that can break. Okay. However, you got 4 doors. All right. So you have that additional revenue that helps generate and make things move faster. But you are going to have way more calls. Oh my God, infinitely more calls than you do on a single family. So when you structure your portfolio, for me, it made so much more sense to start buying small multifamily to start. And so this is when we go back to what I was saying before. When I bought that first duplex, man, I should have bought the fourplex, because that fourplex now it's a Victorian in Sacramento where I was at. Man, I would probably getting about $2,000 a door right now, and it'd be paid off. So it's $8,000 in gross rents. Thank God, because God works in mysterious ways. Now I have a fourplex that's in Glendale, and all of a sudden it's going for $1,000 a door. And it was just at like $650 a door. When I bought it, it was at $450, and the money just keeps escalating with it. So when you start to take that and you factor out what am I getting there, if I would have invested that capital into a single family house, the one that I did in Glendale, I'd probably be somewhere around $2,000. Okay, now I'm sitting at $4,000, so I'm double what my gross rents are. Now, yeah, I've got a few more expenses and whatnot, but it just makes it so much more powerful. The other thing I like about multifamily, when I have a vacancy, okay, when I have 4 doors, my vacancy goes, I still have 3 that are going, so I'm still 75%. The way I structure the majority of my stuff is I only need to be about 50% occupied to break even. So that gives me 2 doors of pure profit. And so if you have it structured like that, it kind of hedges your bets in a way. All right, yes, you're going to have a little bit more headache, but you're going to get a lot more revenue to take care of that. What I also tell people is, you deal with the headache, and you can manage one. I'm a property manager, and I'll tell you, managing one, no problem, you can do that. You start getting to 2, 3, 4 doors, okay, 5 doors, more. Now it starts to become beneficial for you to hire me because of your time. These guys eat up your time. Guys like me who do it all day and all night with my team and whatnot, we're able to leverage each other, and we know how it all works. So that way, that time is minimized. That's our day in and day out job, right? Your job may be real estate agent. Your job may be something else, part-time agent and whatnot. Managing properties is a full-time job. So after a while, you have to start. You get your head around the concept, going like, yes, I'm paying the property manager because I want to save the money. But are you really saving money? Because there's only one commodity. There is only one commodity that is finite and you can't get any more of. Time. Okay? Real estate, you could argue that. I could argue it. Well, a volcano could erupt in the ocean and create a new island, so there's more of it. But time is finite. You cannot get any more. And how valuable is your time? And after a while, managing your own properties becomes such a headache that if you don't create a company like mine to do it, you start to realize it's eating up my time, and therefore it's eating up my profitability. I should probably hand it over to somebody who's a professional at it, let him deal with it, and guess what? When me and my guys get in there, we go in and we go and raise the rents. Now all of a sudden our service is paid for by rental increases. And now you have your time to go acquire more. Okay? So that's the real key with it. And that's why multifamily works for me. Single family, different thing.
Jason, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
Both of these guys have mentioned the owner-occupied fourplex. I did not do that, but that is the easiest way to get a rental property, because you get owner-occupied financing. You can put down 3.5% and buy that property, and the other 3 rents are going to contribute. The laws change all the time, or the rules, FHA, I don't remember. They're going to give you 70% of that rent to help qualify. I don't remember how all that stuff works. You guys all work with lenders, you can figure that out. But think about that. You get preferred financing, you're one of 4. The other 3 are going to pay your mortgage. You build that thing up 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, whatever. You go move on to your next property, but now you've built equity in this thing. Guys, think about the last 5 years here in Phoenix. If you had 5 properties that were just, you had loans, you didn't have loans, whatever. In the last 5 years, they've doubled, at least, depending on where you're at. In the meantime, you've gotten the rent. This is a passive income and passive wealth building. There's nothing like this. We were talking before the seminar, this doesn't get enough play in the financial publications. They're all about stocks and all that stuff, right? Real estate, it's brilliant. And if you look at 90% of the wealthy families in the country, it's all real estate.
All real estate.
It's just not as sexy, I guess, as stocks, but one of the things that people don't put as a variable when they're calculating either returns or they're trying to project their business plan and figure things out is taxes. I mean, talk about the amazing tax benefits that come with real estate. I mean, you know, there's a lot of ways to grow really fast, and that's because of depreciation as well. How do you get to depreciate property? So, you know, there's a lot of different strategies, and you got to think about what your long term is. Are you doing 1031 exchanges, or are you just going to pay things off completely and live off of the cash, residual cash flow? So there's a lot of conversations you need to have with people and get educated and figure out what your long term plan is. But the taxes for me was one of the best benefits of real estate.
And another part along with those taxes, write-offs.
Yeah.
So you can't go visit a stock. You can't go visit your stock market investments. You can't travel to go see them. So guess what? With your property, you can. And that creates a whole world of write-offs that you have. So and you're a small business owner. Once you buy a property, no matter what anybody tells you, you are a small business owner. That's your small business. And so therefore, you start to have all these benefits and whatnot. And so one of the things that really gets me is when they start to harp on the corporations and whatnot, guess what? We fall in that same category with them. We're the ones that start to provide. We provide residences, jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the thing. You reap those tax benefits of it. Now, I'm not a tax professional, so you want to consult with one. But I can tell you what, those write-offs help so much when you're going through your day-in, day-out business as a real estate agent. Because guess what? You make your commissions. You know, you get a 1099 at the end of the year. You need write-offs. Rentals are a huge write-off for you, and you can start classifying things underneath there. And your tax guy can really unburden you from a lot of the taxes that you end up getting.
He said something just real quick, and I missed it long, but he said you can go visit your real estate, you can't visit stock. Something I've never been a fan of is out-of-area investing. I know people have made a lot of money on that. I consider myself expert, so quote-unquote, a Maricopa County real estate. I don't know anything about Durham, North Carolina. People make money back there, it's great, more power to them, but that doesn't make me comfortable. You know, you're definitely going to need a property manager there. You're trusting somebody to put that deal together. It just feels uncomfortable to me. So for my money, I don't know where you guys stand on that.
It sure is tempting though. Sometimes I'll
it's
see the
really
prices.
tempting.
It's unreal.
Really
It's
tempting.
I'll get a wholesaler sell me something in like Kansas, and it'll be like
Illinois, Indiana.
it'll be like 200 doors for like $1 million. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, I can only get like 10 doors here.
Guys, we can definitely put together another course for that. And when I talk about, you know, where to invest, where not to invest, what to avoid, because you see stuff like that all the time, and then you find out it's in some podunk town in Arizona. And I'll tell you a real quick one. Years ago, one of my wholesalers was like, "Hey, I got these 40 units and it's in Arizona City." And I'm like, "Where is Arizona City?" I got in the car and I drove down there, and I'm like, "Man, it's all 2-bedroom, 1 baths. That's great. It's going to take, you know, a lot to fix up and everything." And then I started looking back at it. I got out of the wow, it's so cheap, I can acquire it. Took the big aerial view and kept going out and out and out. So now I'm at 20,000 feet, looking over it, and I'm literally looking at a map online, going, "What's around here? Who the hell am I going to rent it to? What's happening?" And so what ends up happening is sometimes people are selling you this, and it's like, well, you can't rent it out. It's a dying town, or there's no industry. There's nothing that. Those are all things that you have to consider. You don't when you're looking at Maricopa. You live here. You know in Maricopa County, Phoenix is the 5th largest metropolitan city in the country. It is the fastest growing. There is jobs and everything are coming, so you know you're going to have people to rent to. When you start going out of state, you have to start to look at those variables going, are those things going to work for me? Do I know anything about it? And I got a buddy of mine, an investor, we own a property together, and he's constantly sending me this stuff. And I'm like, when are you getting on a plane and going out there? I was like, because I have a newborn, I can't go right now. You need to go on a plane, get out there, film, and I'll be on the phone with you, but go look and find out all these things about the place. Otherwise, I'm out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's long.
And I think also because I was in their shoes,
Yeah.
we bought a rental in Illinois and then tried to flip it after we were, flip it later. And then the rules and the laws were all different, and it was the only rental property we've ever been sued on trying to get rid of.
Wow.
It turned into a nightmare, and it's because the laws are different. So not knowing.
Illinois, try to evict somebody in Illinois.
Oh,
And that's where it started.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something else to kind of caution.
For the fourplex, it's like, did you actually occupy the one?
Yeah. occupied a unit, moved in there. So FHA has a requirement of 6 months to a year. It changes and whatnot. Generally, it's a year. So you got to move in there. Move in there, especially if you're you don't have kids, you're young, you're single. Do it. I don't care where it's at. I'm from California, so there's nothing here that's rough enough in Phoenix that compares to the places in California that I've been. So there's no problem. If it's not for you, then you got to think twice about it, because you do have to live there for a while to fulfill it. But you fulfill it, you're living basically rent free. You're basically living rent free. Those other 3 people are paying for your mortgage. Then your year comes up. Now guess what? Go buy another one. Go and use FHA or a low conventional to move into a single family and buy it. Guess what? This one now you occupy it out. This now adds additional qualifying income for you. So now it actually helps you going forward, because you have investment income that's coming from that. I think it's only 75% that they'll count of it, but that usually is enough to qualify there. And guess what? Now you pick up another one for low down payment. Guess what? Now you're on to your second one. And you could literally start doing that as long as you get bigger, or better. So think of it this way: the lenders look at it this way. You can buy a fourplex, and let's say there's a studio in there. You're living in the studio. You buy another one, and I actually did this with one of my guys. Did this. He had a small condo, and he ended up buying this triplex, and the triplex had a 3-bedroom house in the front. So he actually was able to convince the lender, well, I'm moving here because this is a better spot. And the lender's like, okay. So he moved over there and lived there for a year, and it was like, I don't really like that. I'm going to move back to my condo. Fine. Everything worked. And he could have went from there. He could have bought another house. But he was like, I don't know about the market at the time. Now he's kicking himself, going like, I should have bought another house at the time, because I could have went, refinanced both of those, and said, another FHA, bought another house. So you can literally keep going up as long as you structure it right. And if you got a good loan officer, he can structure it for you. And now you've acquired these rentals with little to no money down, but you can't go back. So you can't go like, hey, I got this nice house in Scottsdale. I'm going to buy this fourplex in Sunny Slope, and I'm going to move into it. They're like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Pal, that's not going to fly.
Yeah.
If you go up, yes, but you can't go down with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you use that, awesome. Awesome way to do it.
I got lucky because, when I first started, like I told you guys, I had the roommates thing. Well, guess what? I'm still doing the roommates thing. I'm married now. My wife is awesome. Lets me do it.
Oh, she is?
So many ideas.
You are a lucky man.
I am very lucky, because when we got married, I was like, well, there goes. This is
Yep.
going to have to stop. I doubt she'll be cool with this forever. And then I just remember being like, baby, like, we could move into the $600,000 home if we continue doing this roommate thing. She's like, let me look at it, looking at the pictures, like, all right. And so,
Your
yes.
cousin still has the divider wall.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's very unorthodox what we do, for sure. It's not normal, but there's ways out there, right? So if it's right for you, maybe a small percentage of people that something like that could work for. But we own 2 fourplexes and 1 duplex. But as far as how we get to house hack and kind of continue growing, it's through just the roommates situation.
You got to ask yourself, guys, when you start down this path, what are you willing to sacrifice?
Yes.
What are you willing to sacrifice right now? What are you willing to put on the line in order to get to where you want to go? And people will tell you this stuff and everything, but it is really, really so true when you're real estate investing. It's, can you sacrifice a little comfort now? Are you willing to, rent a room from somebody and do that for a while in order to generate the revenue to start making that next jump? And then pretty soon, you're sitting there going like, I don't really sacrifice anything anymore. Yeah, I got my Lexus, I've got my house, I've got this, that, and the other. And you keep going. But you think back to that, I think back to that time going like, man, I bought that fourplex, I moved in. Then once I fulfilled my commitment, I moved out, and I was like, I did the same thing. I went to one of my buddies, he was renting a room to me for $500. I was like, I'm gonna take that because I can go buy this over here and I can generate revenue for it. And now it's all there. The other thing that I did too was this second time around, I was an agent too, so I started picking up deals here, that, and the other, and I was going, well, I kind of have money going over here. My expenses got real low. Like I was able to eliminate like all my debt. Everything was gone. The car paid off. I'm renting a room for $500. I had no credit card bills, like nothing. And I'm going, man, on a monthly basis, I really don't need that much money. If I'm willing to sacrifice for a couple of more years, then I can start to move myself in a realm where my cash flow is going to go up enough to where I can move on into buying my house again. This is paying off for this is this pays for my new car, blah, 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 blah. And it just went from there. And guess what? I had these real estate commissions. I'm going, I don't even need to really spend them because I'm willing to not travel right now. I'm willing to not go to ball games and do things that I like to do for a short period of time, so that way I can take that money in and buy a few more rentals. And as that cash flow starts picking up, and that ball's rolling, spend dividends, okay? Spend your profits or your earnings on your rentals. Do not spend your principal. So as you're earning more, let's say you sell something and you get some money over here, don't spend it on this. Reinvest it. Redeploy and reinvest your capital, your principal. But your dividends, your rents that you're getting, that's okay. That's where you can find some, because I know this is going to keep coming, okay? Your principals and stuff like that's a one-time shot. Rents is never, theoretically never ending, but it keeps coming. So that's money that you can spend. Now, if you can stomach, don't spend that and let that build up. Guess what? Now you can buy another. And think of it like, this is what I say. Think of it like having a bucket, and you've got one faucet pouring into that bucket. Well, if you got a second faucet pouring in there, it'll fill up twice as fast. And then the third and fourth, and guess what? Now all of a sudden that bucket's full. Now get a second bucket, and you've got the faucets moving one over here. Then move another, and another, and another. And they start filling, and it just starts to snowball on you. It's a total snowball effect.
Yeah.
It really is. And you just let that thing go. But how much are you willing to sacrifice? And I'll go back to setting your goals. Write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down. You start with your game plan and write it down. This is what I'm willing to do. This is my time frame. This is how much I can sacrifice. Guarantee you will start to drive towards it every day. You start that train of thought going, this is easy. And another thing, if you can say, and this may sound really crazy, but tell yourself deals will come easy and often. Every time I say that, it is the craziest thing. Stuff starts flowing for me. And I forget to say it in another 30 days, and I just say it in the mirror. Deals will come easy and often, and boom, they come. It's the weirdest thing. But it's just power of positivity, I think, actually.
Questions?
Did you guys get hit hard with COVID, with the multifamily stuff deal and the moratoriums and stuff? I'm from Washington, and everybody got completely, for lack of a better term, flat back.
Everybody I've talked to, 10% was affected.
Okay.
Maybe 8, maybe 12, 10%. It was so much less impact. Yeah, personally,
I thought it was going to be worse.
I thought it was going to be way worse.
Yeah, and for me, even in our entire management portfolio, we're probably less than 5%.
Oh, wow.
And again, that's not because I'm great. Well, I'm great. Not because I'm the greatest. We got lucky. We got lucky. But 10%, that's a great accurate figure right there about that's what happened. And that's because this state is so much more landlord friendly than any other state. And I had a lady, I was ready to kick her out. I was just telling Mike about this before, and I just got a $5,000 check in the mail yesterday paying her rent. And all they got to do is go and sign up, because that money is out there. They just have to follow up. And as we come out of it, it's a good thing, because now rents are just shooting up.
Yeah, that's one of the main
awesome.
reasons why it wasn't as bad, is just because of all the money that is currently available if you're facing challenges due to COVID. And so the city of Mesa has sent us a bunch of checks. City of Phoenix has sent us a bunch of checks for tenants. And when there's tenants that are struggling, we already know where to send them. So it's like, look, you need to apply here. You need to get in touch with so-and-so over the city. And then they're like, really? Yeah, that's all you got to do. You just fill out this application and you're set. And so, there's no excuses really here.
Yep.
There's so much money out there available for tenants.
When you do a fix and flip and then sell it, how do you get around the capital gains?
So mine's different, because I have fixed and flipped within my IRA as well, but that's a little bit frowned upon, because that's more of a business. It's supposed to be a more passive activity in your self-directed IRA. I've done it. My primary fix and flip is my business, and it becomes just ordinary business income. It's just my ongoing. I don't do 1031s and that stuff within the business, because it's I've done 200 in 11 years. And that's just in revenue to the company, and you have expenses and you pay yourself, and so that's the way I do it.
Okay.
But he hit on the 1031. You could do that. Theoretically, you just do a 1031 exchange, and you got to move it on to the next
If
property.
you're doing it personally,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's really hard to get around that gains and whatnot if you don't have it in those avenues. But you got a lot of expenses, and then roll it on.
Yeah, there's some people that, depending on the volume, if it's small, some people might hold it for over a year. That way it's a different type of, it's not the short-term capital gains, it's more of a long-term thing. So there's people that do that just because now you got like short-term vacation rental opportunities and things like that. So that's one way to go about it. But honestly, in our case, or there's other people that that's part of the operations, right? They're doing so much and that's all you do, that's just part of the operations and it's baked into it. But that's one of the reasons why I didn't continue, just after it was all said and done, I was looking at those profit margins and I just didn't want to do that. It wasn't for me.
So you structuring all your rentals in separate LLCs?
I do. That's an excellent question and whatnot. I do, and it's mainly because I have some partners. So I have partners, but I don't have any one partner that intersects into another one. So I don't have 3 partners or anything. It's only one at max. And mainly because, think of it this way, you got a pie, you don't want to cut it up more than 50%. I mean, sometimes you can if you've got bigger places. Now that's a different thing, but in these smaller ones, you want to cut them a little bit smaller. The LLCs will give you protection. One, for me, because I've got so many other ones going on, it's like I need to have protection from each one. So it insulates it and does it like that. Pretty easy to set up. I mean, you can literally put together a LLC, an operating agreement, everything like that. It's very simple to do here in this state. If you want to make sure you have that extra layer of protection, you can get a real estate attorney to draw it up for you, $500 to $800 maybe, and they'll draw it up and you guys go in and you do something like that. And then you get the property and then you can deed it in there. Now there will be some things that you need to consider. For instance, conventional financing, Fannie and Freddie, if you deed it in there and whatnot, there's a due on sale trigger that they could trigger where they could force you to either refinance it or sell it. Is it going to happen? Very unlikely, but it's something to consider because you'd have one partner that's probably being the personal guarantor like that or something like that in the beginning. But it's something that you're going to want to consult with your attorney about or talk to your partner about it and figure that out. But ultimately, you're going to want to have those properties in separate LLCs and whatnot just to insulate from each other, because if something happens on one, then if it's in an LLC, they can go after the LLC, but they can't go after the next one, theoretically. Okay, so that's why I do it.
That's an excellent.
It's a great question, though. Should we try? What was that question? One question we got through?
You keep asking us questions. You just ask so many questions.
Through all the questions, we got through one. Well, actually, I think we've talked about all
I'm sure we
of those.
touched on some of those, right?
Yeah.
I kind of had a follow-up one.
Go for it.
What are you guys seeing in the market? Is now a good time to buy or look for these properties? Obviously, with inventory, it's getting harder and harder to find. Is this going to go down a little bit in 6 months?
I would say there's 2 things to it. I would say no one has a crystal, right? There's a lot of things that are outside of everyone's control, and there's things that can happen in China that we have no control over, and then all of a sudden affect the market, right? But
yeah, what's that?
the developer,
That's not going to pay off.
that caused some pullback, right? And we're seeing it in the stock market right now.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Right.
But I would say we look at fundamentals, right? When you're a real estate investor, you're looking at fundamentals. You're looking at supply and demand. You're looking at what rate are we building and fix and flipping and providing housing? What's our inventory like, right? And what's the demand like? And if you look at the fundamentals, we are way off from being able to meet that demand that we have here in the valley. But because of the crazy appreciation and things like that, affordability is becoming an issue, right? Things like that. And also there's so much equity now in some of these properties that a lot of people are going to want to tap into that equity. And so you're seeing a lot of people thinking, it's probably a good time to sell, especially with the uncertainty in this climate. And so, I mean, we look at the comfort reports and stuff like that, and we are seeing a bit of a trend that, by Q1, we think our inventory is going to be slightly better. And, there's projections, and they're only projections, obviously, but there's projections that by Q1, Q2 next year, the market would be slightly more balanced. And all that really means is that there'll be a little more inventory for buyers, and that, it'll be a little, not such an extreme seller's market. So that's a bit of a projection, but again, if you look at the fundamentals, what's going to happen is just like every market, it's controlled by emotion, a human emotion. And so if there's fear because of the climate uncertainty, and say there's no catastrophes or anything like 9/11 or something like that happening, the fundamentals are strong, which means that if there is a certain pullback or there is a high inventory that goes up, it will be absorbed by people that are looking into that fundamental aspect of things. Like, I can tell you that me, for one, I have a longer timetable on my end. I'm gonna be investing for a very, very long time, and so if there's a lot of people that are fearful and they're putting things on the market, I'm gonna go buy it right away. I'm not even worried about what's happening in China. I'm not worried about anything. All I care about is, can I put that thing on a 30-year fixed mortgage? Because if it's on a 30-year fix, I'm good.
So, I guess my answer, because you guys get asked this question, you're in real estate, right? What's going to go on? Is it a good time? How many times has somebody said to you, I'm going to wait till it goes down? Right? How's that worked out the last
I'm
time?
sure you guys have clients that are waiting for the market crash, right?
So I guess the answer I've got, what do you guys see the long-term horizon for Maricopa County? There's 100,000 jobs on the being built right now.
So
Between
strong.
that fab up in West Phoenix, Intel doubling. You talk about the Cromford report. There's so many sources of data that everything's positive. 262 people a day. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
262 people a day moved to Maricopa County. Where are they gonna live? Right? Where is it? So if in a year, if that property were to drop 5%, would it put a pit in your stomach? It might, if your plan was to sell it in a year. But in 10 years, will you regret buying anything in this county? I don't think you will.
That's the beauty of being a long-term investor too, right? You're looking at fundamentals, you're looking at long-term, right? You're not worried about what the market is doing within the 6 to 10 months, or if there's fear, there's a little bit of a pullback in how people feel about things, right? That shouldn't matter to you.
It's a great place to
And I gotta, before Randy jumps in here, I gotta say one thing. I always look at it like this: does it make sense? Okay, am I purchasing it? Does it make sense? One, am I going to be able to rent it out for more than my expenses are? Can I cover my monthly net? Does that make sense to me? Is the property in a reasonable condition? Am I buying something that's just a mess and I know I'm going to have to dump all this money into it, or is it ready to go? There are good deals out there. They're few and far between right now. These guys can tell you. But when there is a good deal, regardless of price or whatnot, if it's a good deal for you and it makes sense, then it's a good time to buy. That's ultimately what it has to say. This guy over here is going to jump in.
You actually just jumped on it.
Oh.
What I was going to say was, does
Who
it
let
cash
you
flow?
in?
Does it cash flow? And is it making sense right now without drinking the Kool-Aid of what it's going to be in 3 or 5 years from now? That's
Because it
what
needs
they
the
look at
cash
every
flow.
single day.
Yeah, because you're taking a huge risk, right? If it's not cash flowing in your projections, that's not going to cash flow for a while. That's risky. That's speculating, and anything outside of your control could happen, right? So it needs to be a good deal to you, and ideally, it cash flows from day one. That way, you can, hold out even if there was something in the market that you didn't expect.
You said that you send out letters to tenant occupied with out-of-state owners.
He does, yeah.
Oh,
That's my
okay, sorry.
No problem.
So when you do that, what exactly are you saying to them, and are you looking at that particular time?
I've stopped doing it. When I first started doing it, I was getting a 3% response on the mail. Right now, you're lucky to get 0.3 and 1% response. It's just, those waters are very polluted.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a great idea 10 years from now, because you're looking for people that are tired of out-of-state run and all the problems. So I would try to accentuate, are you sick of, out-of-state tenants, not getting rent paid, too many repairs, bad property management? Again, all due respect.
No worries.
But you're kind of playing on the emotions. We're talking about
Yeah,
these people are sick of being, and I would bet 90% of these people owned the property and moved out of state, lived in it and then moved, or they put up their kid to go to ASU and then they moved. I probably bought 30 houses that way, and I still have some of them. It was a great thing at the time, and you can still look for those opportunities. I found other ways to get property, and it became less cost effective.
Yeah.
But that was what I was doing. I was preying on their emotions and just being sick of it.
And investors do get sick. They get sick and tired of dealing. Trust me, sometimes I'm like, I'm going to sell a whole portfolio and I'm going to go build some. I ultimately do want to. Yeah, I want to build some storage units and do that because that's a whole other ballgame and a great way to do it. But it's so much money to get going.
It's a big project.
But then you come back. I come back and go, well, I'm livid and whatnot. But there's other guys like me that are out of state and they get tired of going like, God, I look at my ledger every month, and it's like I'm losing this, and they call, and I'm like, what are you gonna do? There's repairs. That's part of the deal. It's like you buy an older set of units, there's gonna be repairs. You've got some tenants are great, but there's a lot of tenants that are just not smart, and they do not smart things, and they cost you money, and they aggravate you, and it just happens, and eventually, finally, it becomes one of those things where they're like, you know what, forget it, I just want out, and you just have to be right place at the right time, make that offer, and get them out. Go for it.
Once you guys have a move-in ready place, what do you typically set aside for a maintenance cost per year? Like, is it a certain percentage of your net income for the property, or do you say I'm going to put aside $2,000 a year? How do you guys?
That's a great question. I'll go first. I always put $2,000 a door aside. That's just my magic number. I don't know why that number is there, but I will tell you, ever since the beginning, I've done that. When I have had to dip in, which is very rarely, it's never exceeded that 2,000 plus whatever else I had on hand. That just is the magic number for me, and that's just kind of how I factor it. Other times I've heard people say factor in anywhere from $45 to $50 a door per month over time, so that way you know that your repairs will be covered in that manner. A lot of different ways. $30 for single family doors. Those are just some old numbers that I've heard before. And again, they escalate over time because of inflation.
But it's definitely true that is by far one of the main things that separates people that are just kind of winging it and people that are very organized and have a spreadsheet, right? You definitely want to make sure you have something allocated in a budget, not only for the maintenance that not if it's going to happen, it will happen.
When it happens.
And you should definitely expect, or at least be so conservative that you budget for something happening every single month in every single one of your units, whether it's a leak, whether it's something that went out, or a breaker, or the air handler is not working, whatever it is, right? There's so many things that happen, and in addition to that, your CapEx, right, which is your capital expenditure for the big ticket items. How long do you have before that AC unit needs to be replaced, or how long do you have till that roof needs to be replaced, or the water heater, things of that nature that are bigger ticket items. So you definitely want to make sure you budget for those. And honestly, in my case, it's changed a lot. When I first started, I was doing single family houses, and then moved into the fourplexes and the duplexes, and now we're going to this. So that number will continue to change, but make sure you guys are always budgeting for those.
You could get a home warranty.
That's what
You could absolutely get a home warranty.
Yeah,
Yes, great plug.
Or is that the-
That's a great plug.
If I say something, I'm not doing my job.
That is a great plug.
When you buy your first rental, get a home warranty.
Yes.
That will help you at least for the first year for sure, and maybe the second year, but do it. Oh my God,
And make
it is
sure
a lifesaver.
But I'll be honest with you, a home warranty is not necessarily a property management one-size-fits-all lifesaver.
No, but it helps. It helps a lot.
It can, and we can always have that conversation.
I have-
Because it has to do with the different situations.
Yeah, I've got a lot of owners who are running some razor thin margins, and I tell them, shouldn't do that, and whatever. And if you are, get a home warranty, because that's going to save you if the AC, and make sure the AC is covered. Pay for the premium, whatever it is. Get on the phone, make sure it's done, because that will save you. If you are running that razor thin margin, do that. Other owners, they're running, it's paid off. They're collecting $1,500 a month. I'm like, you don't have to, as long as you have your reserve there. Everybody has a different way of looking at it. But in that first year, when you go in and buy your first property, oh man, get a warranty. That will give you peace of mind. That will help you out. That will take care of a lot for what's the service fee? $75?
Yeah.
$75.
Well, my home group at $69.
There you go, $69.
Yeah.
So
But we have one property manager that I work with, her account, and she's out of Las Vegas. It's a company, and they make a requirement that you get a home warranty through us. She manages everything 100%. She's got 100 plans with us, and because we know her, we know how she operates everything. It's like clockwork. So it makes it easy because she does so much volume with us that it's a little bit more smooth. But
God bless her if she's managing that all herself. Believe me,
It's crazy.
that woman doesn't sleep.
No, and
That woman never
it's
sleeps
I'm going to be
then.
honest, from
Yeah.
my perspective,
You
it's a
don't have a team?
nightmare.
Yeah.
I don't really love that we have her.
She's great, but it's a lot.
What are you guys using for lead generation as far as finding these properties? I mean, the mailers aren't working anymore, or you guys have people on phones, texts?
Are you looking to acquire a rental or a fix and flip?
Rentals, I'm looking for
As a
rentals.
rental, you're an agent?
Yes.
You have access to the MLS?
Yeah.
I would set up a search in the areas that you're interested in. Pick Mesa, whatever, right? Define where you're interested in, a price range, and I would know every time a tenant occupied property hit the market.
Do you know how to set up the
They'll
hot
work
sheet?
twice a day.
What's that?
Do you know the hot sheet on
Yeah.
MLS?
Yeah.
Yes. Set up your hot sheet or look there every day. Like Mike said, you're looking for that. You're looking for expired listings. You're looking for all this stuff. You can deal hunt a lot yourself. You have a huge advantage over other investors because you have that access, and that would be your number one spot.
And set it up for, do another search when they hit 90 days.
Yep.
Tenant occupied listings that have been on the market for 90 days. That's another trigger. You talk about frustrated, right?
Yeah.
The agent's sick of it, I assure you.
Oh yeah.
And the seller just wants to get rid of the damn thing. The tenant's obviously being a problem, or it would have sold.
Right.
You'll put up with something that the average buyer will. Midnight Sunday, I'll be there. Right?
Yeah, you guys are in a different position because you guys are licensed, you guys have access to this database, and once you learn how to really master the hot sheets, the filtering, just this 10-unit complex, the 10-unit apartment complex I would just buy, guess what? I never in a million years thought I would be finding this on the MLS, and it was on the MLS.
That's awesome.
It's so wild to me.
Man.
But why was I able to get it? Because I had the experience, and I also had the filters ready to go. So for example, I have my multifamily filter set up for anything that's over 5 units, because we're not trying to buy anything under 5. At a certain price point between whatever price points, and then you figure it out the areas and whatnot, and guess what? It's 5 in the morning, I wake up, I'm looking at my phone and I see this alert on my email, and it's this no picture new listing, and I love those when there's not a picture. Oh my god, this is amazing.
Real quick, because guys like me who aren't really actively looking for something like that or no picture, they pass over it. And this guy's like, nobody's gonna go look.
I love this. When there's not a picture, it means either the real estate agent is in a hurry, or they have a lot going on. They don't really care much about this listing, or it's a house that needs a lot of work. It has a lot of deferred maintenance. So it's usually a good deal. Or the real estate agent just doesn't have a lot of experience. They didn't even know how to put a picture. Who knows? But either way, it smells like a good deal always when there isn't a picture. And so, anyways, I look at it, I see it. Next thing I know is I'm doing my underwriting. Right, I'm really quick because I know these deals go by quick. And I kid you not, I think I waited till about 7:30 a.m. because I don't want to blow people up at 5 in the morning. So I waited till like 7:30 a.m. I was like, yo, I'm sending you an offer over at blah, blah. I gave her everything. I'm like, it's going to be in your inbox. And she's like, we have other offers already. And I tell you, she posted it at 2 in the morning. I saw it at 5. By noon, it was already under contract. Wow. So that's how fast things go. One of my fourplexes, which is by far one of the best deals I've done too, was from a wholesaler. Another way to get deals is, organically, you need to build relationships and understand who the big players in the valley are. What are the people that are moving a lot of these deals through? I'll be honest with you, the best deals you got to get yourself, direct to seller, because even these wholesalers, they're not blasting it out to everyone unless they go to like top 5 investors pass up on it.
Yep.
After after they pass up on it, then the public gets access to them. So once you see that email, just be wary, run your numbers, because it'll probably be a really thin margin. But anyways, I've purchased a lot of deals like that. So it'll hit my inbox, I do my underwriting super quick, and if it meets my criteria and I feel comfortable with it and it's a project that I want to work on and it's perfect timing, you got to pull the trigger. And I've purchased deals where it hits my inbox at, say for example, 9 a.m. I'm sending my earnest money at 9:15, 9:20 to the title company or to that individual directly to make sure that I lock up that deal, because I don't want anyone else to do this one. And when people know that you're serious and you create good reputation, and a lot of wholesalers have worked with you, it gets a lot easier, because if out of 10 people reach out to a wholesaler, and they've worked with someone in the past and it was really easy to work with them, they followed through, they said they were going to buy it and they purchased it and they made their experience easier, they're more likely to give that deal to you. So with experience and with time, wholesalers like working with you and they give you deals and stuff.
Every transaction you do, you got a realtor on the other side of it. That's a potential source as well. Yeah. So you've got 15 realtors in the last year you've worked with, and you liked every one of them. send them an email. By the way, I'm looking for this. If you come across something, let me know. The deals that never hit the market are your deals.
Right.
That's the stuff where you don't have, it's not you're not gonna get multiple offers. If you're the guy that can make it easy and fast and quick, and they already know you, that's cool.
I'll give you one other source, hard money lenders. So I've got a couple hard money lenders that I, every 3-4 months, send them text, hey, you got anything that's come back? Because they end up going back and repoing some of this stuff. And they're like, yeah, this just came across my desk. Here, look at it. And you got it before anybody else even knows about it. So if you can develop that relationship, a couple of those guys that you can just text, boom, now all of a sudden you've got another source. But this is just, it's a contact sport. So it's constantly being able to contact this guy, contact this guy, contact this guy. When I do my classes here, when I go into that, the different things that I used over time to talk to people and whatnot. And that's ultimately where you're gonna find it. You gotta make those calls and whatnot. I got one investor, he calls me once a month. I don't even have anything. I haven't had anything from him for a long time. He still calls, and that's what he tells me. He's all, I call you and about 20 other guys in Phoenix that I've done deals with, and I shake the tree, and I never know when a coconut's gonna fall out. And it does. He ends up with deals.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. Just keep making those calls, keep touching up. 5% rate, 3% rate of the time, it's worth your time though. The time, if you time block those calls in and make those calls, you will find them. But you just have to make it has to be part of your day. This is what I'm doing every day. Search the MLS, make your calls, keep looking, knock on a few doors. They'll be there. It's a little harder right now because there's so much competition on it. It ain't always going to be like this. It will change again. One day it will be a buyer's market again, and then it's going to get easy. And that's where, like with my strategy, because I've got what I have right now, that's when I'm like going, okay, I'm ready to deploy then. And you fatten up then because now there's just, the deals are easy to pick off. And right now, you do have to work really hard for them right now. That's just the nature of the beast.
And markets are cyclical, obviously, right? We might be going through a super cycle that may last longer than we all expected or whatever, but to his point, sometimes it's easier to find capital than it is deals, and sometimes it'll be easier to find deals than it is to find capital, right? But at the end of the day, if it's a good deal, the money will follow, and just about anyone and everyone that is savvy or understands this business will want to partner with you or whatever, right? So, the money will be there always. It's just a matter of finding the deal.
Yep.
You guys all have a business card on here?
I do. I have one in my
Excellent.
wallet.
We have a digital one.
If we should probably just do it via email.
We could probably
We'll
send it out.
send it out. I'll send out their information.
Yeah.
To everybody. If you didn't sign, did everybody sign the sign-up sheet? No. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. There's so much great information.
Felt like we were doing a lot of the talking. Hopefully you guys got your questions answered.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, this really is probably condensed. We could probably sit here for like 8 hours and expand on topic after topic. We should probably do that one day.
I made a list of things that I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
Talk about any of them.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do like a 2.0.
Well, you know,
Definitely.
it's funny how we said that outline, we're not even going to get down
Yeah.
to an outline. It's just start.
One question, it just starts flowing and whatnot, and you can just, like I can tell with these guys, we could sit here and just talk for hours and hours and hours of going through different things that we've done, and you can pick up like you said, golden nuggets, and if you just start adding little by little with it and take it, man, it's crazy how it just starts to blossom, and then you come back and go, hey guys, I got this. What do you think? Oh, yeah, do this, and this, and run with it. And that's what we're always available for.
She asked about those out-of-state mailers. I did that targeted. I picked complexes that I liked. You end up with a universe of about 1,000 or 2,000, whatever number it is, but you're in that complex and you know it. And I used to play on that in the letter. I'm an owner in this complex. I know the complex like the back of my hand, all that stuff. You don't want to own it anymore, call me. That all factored into the letter. I didn't say that when she asked that question. But your marketing area should know,
Yep.
right? And that's the key too, because you're an expert. Lay up on what you know.
I think it'd be good to do a class with you guys and invite like a CPA
Yes.
and a lender.
And a lawyer.
And like just, I mean,
Always
that's
gonna have the
maybe turn it into
lawyer.
like you do your panel and then maybe turn it into a lunch where people can ask questions.
Yeah, and I mean,
Good idea.
a lot of times when people cover this topic, I mean, it takes like a 2-day weekend or 3-day
Yeah.
weekend, right?
Yeah.
So this was a very condensed, but ideally the goal was that you guys got to ask your questions from where you guys are at right now. So hopefully you guys picked up some things, but yeah, happy to, feel free to reach out to us if you guys have any.
So I'll send out their information, and then if you guys have follow-up, like I'd really like to learn about this specifically or whatever, we can structure another class with your feedback. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. Yes,
Thank you guys.
Hey, you too, man. That's great. Nice to meet you, man. You look familiar. Met before? Oh, man.
Good job. That's awesome. So much information.
Thank you.
Take as many as you'd like.
Thank you. Have a good one. Take care.
Car.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.